Hello, and a warm welcome indeed. It's Devon Live Chat, and it's great to have your company. If you're watching live or if you're watching when we put it out as a recording. What are we talking about this particular episode? We are talking about internet radio, and being joined by Dave Baxter. Chapstone Radio, the sound of the North Devon coast. Was that something you actually started yourself?
Yes, it was, absolutely. It was a follow-on from something else that I was doing, and it just came about as an organic progression, really.
How long has it been running for?
Oh, blimey. Well, the story goes that originally I had a station called Cauldron FM. Which was an internet-based pagan radio station, and then after that had been going about 2 years or so, something like that, somebody said to me, wouldn't it be great if we could have an online internet radio? And as you know, Lantern did their work, and the brief to me was basically just to make it even more local and focus on Ilfracombe. So I would say it's probably been going on and off for about 10 years now.
So really, when you look at it in that sort of light, it's probably one of the longest running internet stations based here in Devon.
Probably so, yes. I think, as I say, because it's the parent radio station, Cauldron FM is still going strong now, and it was just another progression from that, alongside another venture which did actually somewhat go to the wall, which was Ilfracombe TV, because there were a few political things went on there, and at the moment, I'll leave it at that. If we delve into it further at a later stage, then fair enough, we will. But just at the moment, leave it at that. It was a bit of political stuff.
Yeah, there was, like, when you're talking about it, it's like when The Voice started, there was a group of people who wanted to start Barnstable TV as well. And it didn't get off the ground because of certain problems with licensing, premises, the cost of it, and everything else. Tell us a little bit about the first instant. You know, you're talking about a different radio station to Capstone. Are you called Merlin on that by any chance?
I certainly am. Yes, that's me. I am Dave the Merlin.
So, whereabouts is that broadcast from? Is that North Devon based as well?
It certainly is. The room I'm sitting in now, actually. And let's be fair. It although it's available 24/7, it is actually podcast based.
Right.
It did stream at one time. It was streaming round the clock, and then I had a big internet issue in the studio, and we lost all the internet connectivity. And the only thing I could do was sort of do podcasts, because I could go take the recordings and go somewhere else and launch them onto the net. So that's,
you're pretty busy man, really, aren't you, with other things as well. Good evening to Stuart. Stuart is saying, if you've got any questions for tonight's chat, please post them here. That'd be nice, actually, because as I was saying just now, a lot of people didn't realise that there are certain radio stations which broadcast on the net, podcast or live, and they're actually based here in North Devon. And I think I can probably name about another 2 or 3. And, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, that, you know, if you've got a microphone, and you've got a little bit of ability. There you go, off and put some shows together. And what do people want from your type of show? Well, I would have thought that when you're talking about Cauldron, is that based around magic and everything else, or was that just a name that was thought of?
No, it certainly wasn't just a name. Basically, my particular path through this life is one of being a pagan. And I was talking to a lady in America who's also a pagan, and she was working on a youth-based pagan radio station, sort of maximum age of 21 sort of thing, or basically up to 21. And she said it would be great if she could actually broaden her audience, but the radio station was geared to this under 21s. And I said, well, I've been looking at possibly doing podcasting and that sort of thing. Why don't we look at putting together something called Cauldron FM, which we could actually do and aim at the adult pagan audience. And she jumped at it, so she came on and on board with it, and she goes under the name of Raven Moonshadow, and hence that was why my Moonshadow Media brand came along, because I was the media, she was the Moonshadow, and so it went from there. And we did, as I say, we did it on an old steam-driven internet thing platform, and it became quite popular on there. So we looked at how we could develop it, and I spoke to a young gentleman called Sam Rudd, and Sam came up with the way of we could actually broadcast 24/7. Admittedly, it was pre-recorded, obviously, because Bridget's stuff couldn't be done live. Transatlantic link-ups were not very good. So she used to record the MP3s and send them to me, and I'd drop them into the programming schedule. And that was how it went. And it went on like that for about 4 or 5 years until we had this major big problem.
Now, surely that can sort of go forward these days, because there's a lot of people who are supplying cloud, aren't they? Where you
Yes.
can, you know, put your stuff together and send it to the cloud. And if you lose your internet connection, it's still going to go out. Have you gone down that route?
Not as yet. I mean, obviously, I've got the podcasts now, which go and sit there on the podcast platform, and people can tune in as and when they want. But at the moment, there's no sort of online live broadcasting done, which is something I would like to get back into, I must be honest. And who knows, if I retire in a few months' time or a few years' time, I might get round to doing it.
I can quite honestly look at you and say, you and I are from the same sort of genre. We aren't going to retire, are we, really? if we do, we end up.
That's very true. That's very true. We know.
So
as long as I can broadcast, I'll be happy to carry on.
Yeah. So you touched on music as well, didn't you, with Moonshadow? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, Moonshadow Media, it's all wrapped together as all one big thing, because I am also a musician, and I've done quite a bit of a history on that one, and so I was looking for an arm that I could actually release my own material, and so it just fell into the Moonshadow Media umbrella. So we had the publishing side of my music, we had the radio station, we had the Ilfracombe TV and Capstone Radio, all made up Moonshadow Media.
So if I was a musician and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, oh, I could send some music to Dave, would that be of any good? Would you be able to use that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm all about bringing unsigned, unheard of bands and giving them a platform. Back in the very, very early days, before ever the radio stuff became into my life, in a big way, I was running an artist management company called Westworld, and we sponsored a Battle of the Bands in Barnstaple, and there was myself and another lady called Anne, and we sponsored this Battle of the Bands. And there were two bands that we actually liked and thought one of these two was going to win. And what we did was we put up a 12-month management contract as the prize for the winning band, or as a prize for the winning band. One of the bands was called Little America, and the other band was called Retrovibe. And I think, Martin, we have a mutual acquaintance there, somebody called John Sharp. And anyway, Little America won the competition. And so we said, great, you've now got a management contract for 12 months. To which they responded, we don't need it. We've already got management. Okay, fine. We'll give it to the second place, which was this band Retrovibe. And so they went off on doing sort of quite a lot of profile gigs. We did a big photo shoot with them and so on and so forth. Took them up to the studios up in Cheshire, and they recorded an EP. And that was sort of, they went on to bigger and better things. That there was a tour that I was asked to put together for them, which was around North Devon, playing out at Torrington and here in Ilfracombe, in Barnstaple, and various other places. And it finished on the 28th of September, which, funnily enough, was our wedding anniversary. And it went down an absolute storm. And Retrovibe, on the back of that, had been spotted somewhere on the tour, and they were offered a bigger tour, which they had accepted. And then 2 days before the tour was due to start, the bass player backed out and said, "I can't do it. I'm not ready for this, and so I'm walking away." So I spent the next 24 hours near enough on the phone trying to find a bass player that was capable of fitting in with these people at a moment's notice. Unfortunately couldn't, so I had to pull the tour, and had all sorts of threats made against me, legal action and all that sort of thing. As it turned out, I was able to stave it off, and sort of there were no ill consequences of that event. But yeah, that's the prehistory of it all, really.
It's amazing actually about how much goes on in the background where people don't actually understand or appreciate that for a lot of these entertainers, there has to be somebody at the back who's trying their utmost to put things together. And when you start talking a group, a band, you only need that one person to walk away. You can get someone to depth for a while, but it's not as if you can walk into a shop, is it, to say, "Oh, I'm just going to go down to the music shop and I'm going to get a bass player and take him off."
It doesn't work like that, does it?
It does not work like that at all. And I'm thinking Battle of the Bands. Is this going back to, was Mike Deacon involved in some of this, if I remember rightly?
I think he may have been, yes. I'll tell you where it was, and I can't remember the name of the pub. They have a big function room at the back of it. It's opposite the museum.
Yeah, it was the Northumberland Hotel in the days of when that was.
Right.
Which the hotel, which is above, Mike Deacon still lives in there.
Well, yes, he must have been involved then.
He had Checkers, which then became Synaxis.
Right. Okay.
Those people who can remember, and yeah, it was definitely a live music venue, and you walked in, and then there was another room behind. In fact, that virtually goes back to the shops in the high street it sort of backs onto that. So,
okay.
And I know a little bit later, then they started using the Queen's Theatre for Battle of the Bands and things like that. So,
yeah,
going back a long time, Dave.
Well, I came here. I came here in 1993 or 4, I think it was, and that was one of the first things that I did. So Westworld Artist Management came together probably mid '94, and then the Battle of the Bands was sort of heading towards the end of '94.
And at that time, there I was on Lantern FM and doing drive.
You were, yes, I remember. And I remember coming to the Lantern Studios in Bideford, and one of the first people who I met in the Lantern Studios was Oliver Wakeman. And I recognized who he was. And a little story attached to that. I said he was introduced to me, and it was a case of, do you know, Oliver, I know your dad. And he sort of looked at me and, how on earth do you know him? So that story goes back to several years before that. Rick was doing a concert in Warrington at Woolston Baths, I think it was called. And they'd floored over the baths, and Rick was doing this concert. And I went to pub. I'd been out doing something, and I called into this pub for a drink, and I met another rather big name at that time in the bar, and we were talking to the landlord, and there's this music going on all over the place, and it's really, really loud. And this gentleman, who's, I'll keep him nameless for the moment, but he said to the landlord, he said, where's all that music coming from? And he said, oh, he said, it's Rick Wakeman rehearsing for this gig. So this gentleman said, oh, it'd be great if I could meet up with him. He said, because I've known him in years past. So the landlord said, well, I'll go and tell him that you're here. And so half an hour or so later, he finished his rehearsing, came into the bar, and the three of us sat there for a couple of hours having a few beers and a good old yarn.
Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. In fact, Rick and myself go back even further than that, actually, for when before he made it really big. He was one of the session players at top rank at Reading, and I got to know him extremely well. In fact, I did the disco for his very first wedding at Reading University. Oh, wow. And then Rick, bless him, he came down to Ilfracombe to the old theatre.
Yes, he did.
He was playing there, and I went down to interview him, and I took some people along and said, look, I know Rick anyway, and they went, really? Anyway, after the show, we went round the back and to the dressing room, and he looked at me and he went, Martin, I still owe you, don't I, for a van that I sold you? And I went, yes, Rick. Yeah, you sold me a van. I went to pick it up from your mother's. There was no engine. It was up on bricks with no wheels, and you charged me £25 for it. He said, I'll take you out for a beer. And I went, yeah, fine, okay. What about the £25? He said, well, I haven't been paid from tonight yet. So character and a half. What a performer as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Now, other things that you've been involved in, tour buses.
Oh, God. Yes. Bane of my life. Before I came down here to live, whilst I'd been doing a lot of my own stuff, I still had to earn a living because I wasn't earning very much. And I earned that living through driving coaches. And I didn't do any tour coaches for artists or anything like that. That was next grade up, next pay grade up to what I was doing. But I used to get all the squaddy jobs and all that sort of thing. So anyway, whilst I was working for the company I work for now, I was asked if I would take a professional transport qualification. So I said, yes, don't mind doing that. And they said, well, there's something that we're thinking of getting involved in, and it needs somebody that's professionally qualified. So, oh, okay. So it was all arranged that I did my professional qualification, and it had to be in transport, passenger transport. And I thought, well, this is really, really weird. But anyway, I did it and thought, well, it's another string to the bow sort of stuff. Then it was all revealed to me that there was to be an investment in some rock and roll tour coaches, at which I sort of held my hands up in horror and thought, oh dear, I'm not happy about this, but it is what it is. And so these tour coaches were purchased, and I became the traffic manager for them, and spent quite a few sleepless nights, I'll say that. And it got so heated at one particular point. Even my wife went up there on the bounce and said, "This is not on." You know, Dave really needs to get some sleep. He's working all day and then working all bloody night as well. So not something that I would like to repeat, I must be honest. But
so
an eye opener.
What was the biggest names actually that you ever had on the bus?
Doctor and the Medics, Clive. It started off with Amy Winehouse, and then levels in between, really. But Amy Winehouse was the biggest one.
And what was she like as a person?
Saxon, the American rock band was Saxon. That was another one. That was where all the problems started with Saxon. What was Amy Winehouse like? Difficult to say because I never actually met her. So what I got was only secondhand. So I believe she was an interesting character. I'll leave it there, I think.
Yeah, because there are quite a lot of people actually that there's two of them, isn't there? Like in the sense of introvert, extrovert on stage, yes. Introvert in front of the cameras and the people, you know, extrovert. And then when they get into a tour bus, introvert, like just close right the way down and things like that.
There are people like that. Yes, of course there are.
And loads of people. Now, going back to the Rick story, who was this other person? That's what I want to know.
Stock Aitken and...
Say that again?
Stock Aitken and...
Waterman.
Correct.
Dennis.
No. Peter.
It wasn't Dennis then, the actor.
No, it wasn't Dennis. No, it was Pete.
Yeah. Which he played a very important part, didn't he, in the music industry? Well, all the three of them did, actually.
Yes.
The fact that Pete was the one who actually went out on tours with TV shows where he was, promoting dance music to the pop charts. Collectively, PWL, their idea they took straight out of the backdrop of Motown Records, and that is, if you've got a hit song, just then change a couple of the notes around and put somebody else in singing, and you've got.
And that's what PWL did, exactly.
There's two people, Motown and Barry White. Barry White was even cleverer because he'd had the song made. That would become the instrumental, Love Unlimited Orchestra. He'd have his backing singers do a version of it. That would be Love Unlimited. And then he would do the vocals on it, and it'd be Barry White. 3 hits, one song. Thank you very much. Lovely.
Very nice work if you can get it. Very nice.
So, what's the projects then in the future for you as the man behind Capstone, the other radio station as well, and the fact that you've been working actually tireless for years and years and years for S&H, that it must have become a very large part of your life.
Yes, it is a large part of my life, and has been for virtually since the Retrovibe tour stopped, because I was actually headhunted as a result on the back of that tour. So yes, it has become a very integral part of my life. And it's shameless plug here. It's forming part of a new book, so I don't want to say too much about it at the moment. But the experiences that I've had are forming part of a book that I'm actually working on right now. What does the future hold? Well, it's to get the book published. I've got an album that I'm working towards of my own material. Still got the management company. I would still like to get Ilfracombe TV operational properly. It's finding the right platforms to use. And I think from though this is holding up, maybe there's a way that I can use this. So there's a lot still that I want to do, and there's a lot of still a lot of ideas that I've got of developing my Moonshadow Media enterprise still further.
So there's a lot to work towards. Let's just touch on Capstone one more time. How much of product is there on that radio station? I love the word, the sound of the North Devon coast. I like that. That's great.
Yes,
and if you look at the blurb which I put out to say what we were doing tonight, there's a few things on there, isn't there? How you can get in touch, like Anchor FM, Capstone Dash Radio, a few other accounts. So if somebody was wanting to listen, how would they listen? What have they got to do?
Basically, follow the link. That takes them to the Anchor FM platform, and it should take them to the Capstone Radio podcast. And then there's several hour-long shows. And the reason for the sound of North Devon is because predominantly the material that's played on Capstone Radio is by artists with links or homes in North Devon, or links to and homes in North Devon. The links may be rather tenuous. I mean, it's like sometimes it's something that I've been involved in, which gives it the link to North Devon. And in some respects, it's a bit of an indulgence as well. But it's not my music; it's other people. But it's involving people that have been lecturers at North Devon College. It's involving people who've had shops in Ilfracombe, for instance, and who've been musicians for many, many years. It's bands that have played in Ilfracombe, like Klaus Bowling, for instance, Klaus Bowling Band, who was the original hurdy-gurdy man that Donovan first mentioned, and various other links that all bring it back to North Devon. So hence why it's the sound of the North Devon coast.
Absolutely. In fact, I think, was it the bass player for the Skids? He is one of the lecturers up at the college.
Yep. And also, or are you thinking about Big Country?
Or was it Big Country? I think it might have been Big Country, actually.
Totally.
Which was the Skids, then Big Country. It was the same band.
Right. Same band, really, but I always knew him as that he'd been with Big Country. I didn't know he was with the Skids beforehand.
Yeah, maybe he might not have been. Maybe it might be age is getting to me just a little bit. Yeah.
There is one project that I would like to talk about, which is something that is quite dear to my heart, and we've been trying for quite some time to get it to actually come together. That very person, Tony, and another lecturer from the college, Colin, were involved with myself in something that was done by Tom Newman, who was Mike Oldfield's discoverer, and Tom and I are friends through various reasons, and they did him and another person did something. They did a remake of Tubular Bells by the Children of Ireland, and I've featured that quite a lot on my Capstone radio show because of the connection with me and Tom and so on and so forth. And Colin and Tony and myself wanted to do a similar sort of thing on the back of what Tom had done. And so we looked at doing a remake of, or seeking permission to do a remake of Sgt. Pepper's, featuring children playing all the tracks. It got somewhere, but it didn't actually make the whole journey, and so we couldn't start on it. And then, unfortunately, after they released their last album, Colin's band Colin went to France, and so he left the band. And so one of the integral parts of our project, with the idea of being the children, sort of was left. And so I'm trying to find a replacement with the connections that we can actually still look at doing this remake of Sgt. Pepper's.
Maybe because we're streaming this to North Devon, gigs around North Devon, so hopefully somebody might pick up on that. Just quickly going back to what we were talking about earlier on behalf of Alan, can we listen to your station on Alexa, or is it just through your website?
No, you can actually go onto some of the podcast platforms via Alexa and ask them to find Capstone Radio podcasts on Anchor or something like that. I don't know how you would actually do it, but yes, you can. Because I do it myself. I listen to my own shows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. All right. No, I was just talking to my Alexa then. She said she'll look for it later on after we finish doing this show, which is quite nice. So you were saying, Tom, is this Tom Armstrong or a different Tom?
No, a different Tom.
Right. Because I noticed that Tom Armstrong often puts things on your page. That's if it's the same one who used to live in North Devon and then moved to Brighton.
The same one. Tom and I go back to as long as I've lived here. He was the first muso that I met because my wife, when we first came here, my wife got a job at a hotel in Woolacombe, and Tom's wife was working there as well. And obviously, as they got chatting and that sort of thing, and she said, "What did I do?" And she said, "Well, he's a musician and he's run his own management company and that." And she said, "Oh," she said, "he'd get on great with my husband," and that was Tom Armstrong. And so we went round to their house. We were invited round to their house, and I got injected with the Tom Armstrong enthusiasm, and all these years later we're still friends and still talking and still working on various projects together.
I say, I can remember he lived on Salton Park, and he was doing a lot of things with children, bringing them into the music. And then because you were talking about remaking Sergeant Pepper's using children. I thought maybe Tom could be the person. I don't know if he still does that sort of thing or not.
No.
Academy. Tom Armstrong.
The All Stars Academy. Yes, I was involved with that. Did a couple of successful shows with them, and the whole concept was to train people, youngsters coming into the performing arts, a bit like the various other academies and all that sort of thing. One thing that kept ours somewhat apart from that was that we did the end of term shows and all that sort of thing. But the big thing was that we arranged, and unfortunately through an organisational, can I say cock up? Yeah, I can say it. Through an organisational cock up, I was flying in from Amsterdam to Heathrow, and then supposed to have jumped on another plane out to the States. That didn't happen. So all the kids went off to America and this thing that we'd organised. They were performing in Thousand Oaks, California. It's not California. Thousand Oaks is in Oregon, is it? Something like that. And so I ended up using the internet and talking to the American production team, stage team, and talking them through what all the lighting cues were and all that sort of thing, and how the lighting should work. And it was in the very, very early days of internet, and it was who helped me to put that all in place was Glenn Hadley. And so we did this show, and while the kids were there, they had a whale of a time. And on the plane going out, they were talking to Leo Sayer. He was on the flight, and then they went to Will Smith's ranch, and they sang in the Hollywood Bowl as part of this whole experience. So Tom was instrumental in putting that together, and he and I then worked on it with his wife Ange, and we made it happen.
Which is absolutely brilliant. There was a second one which then that fell apart or something, but that's one of those unfortunate things. I first met Tom when he was working at Unison at Croyd Bay.
All right, yes, of course we would. Yes.
Yeah, he was the deputy entertainments manager, though everybody thought he was the entertainments manager. Was another person in the background. But I think he did one.
So many jazz hands.
I think he did one season or something. Knowing exactly what that job's like, because I've been doing it for the last 20 odd years. But that's another story, and probably a big show as well. But so a book in the pipeline. You've got a radio station ×2.
Mm-hmm.
Still working your fingers to the bone, daytimes. Do you still have to travel and go off to various different places with SNH?
Not very often now. I've become more desk bound, I'm afraid, as my stomach tells me. No, it's for the last 3 or 4 years we've sort of cut down on a lot of that sort of international stuff. We still do the jobs away, but Terry and I and Nigel don't go very often now. Terry does a couple a year, but that's it. We spend most of our time, as I say, in the office now, and take it from there.
How has the lockdown affected the business? Because most people who are suppliers are struggling big time.
It's not good. Basically the tap was turned off, and it hasn't come back on again yet. Who knows where it's going to lead to? We don't know. It's all up in the air. And with respect to all concerned, I feel that it's not inappropriate to sort of go any further with that at the moment.
Absolutely, I can understand what you're saying, and as I said, there's a lot of people. Put my hand up. It's a struggle when you've been supplying and doing, and then suddenly, as you said, the tap was turned off. There is no signs of when it's going to be switched back on, and to what amount, and are people ready to go out to those sort of events and functions? Do they feel it's ready, and is it safe? So please give my kindest regards and best wishes to all those concerned. The next time, because I know there's been a big transformation, isn't it, from the days of just star cloths into video walls.
Oh yes, big transformations. Yes, and it's.
I was told that were you not supplying the Cube at one point?
We did do that. Yes, in varying countries. Yes, we did. It was that was quite an exciting and a rather big logistical project. But again, as I say, I really feel that it's better not to start bringing work into this particular platform at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get Terry on one day and get Mr.
He's
Smith.
The best man to speak to if we can. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that will turn back a few years with us all sitting there talking.
I'm sure it will. Yes. Yeah.
Who brought you to North Devon? That's the next question.
Right. Now that there's a little story attached to that one as well, as there are with a lot of things that I do. Just move that slightly because we've slipped a little bit, and I'm showing a bit of a slip. Yeah. My situation was I was working within the entertainment industry, doing radio work and on a RSL license and all that sort of stuff. And we had a call from my wife's mother saying, is there any chance you could take us down to Bristol and North Devon on such and such a day? So Alison said, yeah, I don't see why not. She said, I'll see what Dave's doing, and if he's available, then we'll both take you down. So it happened that I was clear, I wasn't doing anything on that particular day. So we came down to, actually went to Bristol first and then came on to North Devon. And we called in Alison's sisters, who still does live in Ilfracombe. And she was in a flat overlooking the harbour. And we stood on the balcony. There was Alison, myself, her sister, and her husband. And we stood up on overlooking the harbour. It was a glorious day, and it was actually our wedding anniversary. And Tommy, the brother-in-law, he said, it's about time that you got yourselves back down to Devon, to the West Country. And this was 28th of September. And Alison said to him, as quick as a flash, she said, you find us a place to live and we'll move. And that was it. That was all she said. And we then went about our business and went back up to the northwest. And within a week or so, we had a phone call saying, I've found you a house. And it's a lovely house. And we've told them that you'll have it. We hadn't even seen it. And we've lived in that house ever since. We moved in on December the 3rd, I think it was, or something like that. And as I say, we're still here. So it was a good move.
Yeah. Hi, guys, listening here in Biddeford studio. I hope all is well and you're staying safe. From us three, a Tattoo Balloon. They're a good band. Have you come across them?
No, I haven't actually. No. If they've got any material and they want it played out, get it across to me.
They got a new album. They had another album out, which I've got a copy of it here. Absolutely brilliant. Love their music. Really, really nice people as well. So if you want to send something over to Dave, just contact me and I will send it on, or we'll put your details somewhere.
Quite easy. capstoneradio@mail.com.
There you go. Hopefully you got that. And Tattoo Balloon, well done. I've still got your album here, actually. It's on my system, ready to play out. And you'll enjoy it, Dave. You really will enjoy it.
Oh, great.
So that's how you came here. One of those things, isn't it? You come into North Devon and it's like coming into a spider's web. In a nice way. The fact that you don't really want to go away. And if you do go away, suddenly this piece of material yanks you back in again, doesn't it?
Isn't it just? Exactly, yes. I mean, I was very fortunate in what I was doing before I came down here. As I said, I was recording my own material. I was musical associate to a recording studio called Pagan Media. And I was also working alongside the Halton Borough Council Arts Development Officer, and we were tasked with putting together a platform that up and coming bands could get a grounding in the business and could also arrange to get recordings done and that sort of thing. And the idea eventually was for Halton Borough Council to build a council-funded recording studio. That didn't come to fruition during my tenure there, and I believe it's still not happened as yet. But they did us the great favour of sending us off on a fact-finding mission, and we were sent to various recording studios, one in Preston, one in Liverpool, and a couple of other places. And that's where my sort of brushes with stars from the rock and roll and music world came about. And then it went on from there. And so we came back from Sheffield, and we were absolutely full of what we'd seen there, because the recording studio that we went to in Sheffield were using video recorders to record sound, and you could do multi-track with it and all that sort of thing. And it was a system called ADAT, and these units were really expensive. And at this particular studios, they'd taken delivery of about 20 of these things. So the council had really got plenty of money behind it. And so we came back to Halton and said, like, this is what we've seen. This is state of the art. And where can we take it? We'd love to develop this still further. Well, they gave us a recording studio, or a building that we could make into a recording studio, which was an old church. We really used it initially as a performance venue, and we got local bands in, and we did gig nights every week and so on and so forth. And I entered into negotiations with Pagan Media, and they were very interested in taking on the students and working with them as well. So whether that got any further, I don't know, because we moved then not very long afterwards. But we actually, one of the things that we did get involved in a way, was the Spike Island Festival that culminated with the Stone Roses doing the headline spot. We got involved with it in the very early stages. We were invited back to the Stone Roses one as being the founder members of the Spike Island Festival. So that was an interesting piece of my life. Very interesting.
A bit like fool's gold, really, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, you guys. We will do that. That's from our tattoo balloon. For anybody to know, you can go on the Facebook page, okay, at facebook.com/Capstone Radio. Don't forget the little line in the middle there, and it's got all the other numbers. Thank you very much indeed for finding that for us, Loki. And on behalf of Claire, what is pagan media? There's a lot of pagans around. What's pagan media? That's your next question, then.
Well, the answer to that is it was the name of a company, and they record artists whose music is based in the pagan faith, and it's bands like Legend, Incubus Succubus. Who else have we got? Mine's gone a blank. There's a band in America, Tuatha Dea, in America, that I was working with, and that's that's another story. But it's all pagan-based music. It can be rock, it can be blues, it can be. But if it's got a pagan theme, then that's what pagan media was involved with.
There you go. We have been totally absolutely great. Now, there was something else actually which I put on the post we were going to be talking about, which was all these disability awareness days, but it's only something that you reposted. And I think what we're going to do is, because time's running away, we're going to do a separate show on that. Some of the disability days, 18th of February, International Day for Asperger's, Awareness Day on March the 1st to the 31st. That seems like a month rather than a day. There's quite a lot, actually. But you reposted it because it's quite close to your personal life as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yes. The reason being that my youngest daughter works with children who are in an educational setting, and these children are on the autistic spectrum, and so it is quite dear to me, and no other involvement other than that, but it's peripheral, but it's something that I would support wherever I can.
Well, what you posted, I actually reposted onto our page. So if anybody wants to go and have a look at it and read it, it's very enlightening of the way it's phrased, the way that some people might look at it slightly differently by understanding the actual requirements of why people need a little bit of extra help. It's a different way. And I know for a fact that Stuart is watching and Loki is watching at the moment, and if we took it another step further, we all get involved annually. We didn't this year, unfortunately, because of lockdown, but Special Needs comes to Croyd, and we work with like 300 plus people with special needs. It is very fulfilling to do that sort of work. And anybody who then falls into the category of being a carer, I take my hat off to every one of them.
As I do, to be honest.
You agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, my wife works in that field. She is a community carer. My daughter, as I say, she works with children with special needs. And going back to my very, very early days when I was at school, one of the things that I was involved with was providing entertainment at lunchtime for the residents of a elderly and infirm people's home across the road from where the school was. And we used to troop across there. There was about 6 of us, and we'd entertain the residents for the lunchtime period. And we did that about 3 or 4 days a week. And it was extremely fulfilling. You know, we'd use the piano, we'd take guitars. Some people would just do ordinary vocal harmony stuff. And this was like kids of 14, 15, 16. And it was great fun. And it was really, really, you could see it was making a difference. And that's wonderful.
Totally, absolutely, all the way along. And it's like Stuart said, you know, yes, it is very fulfilling. And yeah, Stuart's done it for quite a few years as well. So thank you very much indeed. Right, let's get to final thoughts then. So we were saying that you've got some projects on the horizon that you want to fulfill, like finishing off the book. When do you think that's going to be?
Well, it just keeps growing. Because just to give you an overview, it's about incidents that have happened throughout my career where there have been people, professional people, from the world of entertainment, and also from other walks of life, politicians. There's also touches into royalty, with royals that I've met and worked alongside. So it's a rather broad spectrum, but everybody that's in the book is involved in some way, shape, or form with one of those fields. And so, as I say, it's a living thing at the moment, because something might happen, as happened only the other week. A person was introduced, or I was introduced to a person, and this person knows somebody else, and that was another introduction that was made. And then I ended up meeting one of my lifelong favourite musicians, Maddie Pryor, and it's just all these things intertwine with one another. And so it's an account of all these various fortuitous incidents that have happened during the years that I've been down here, and before, throughout probably the last maybe 40 years.
Yeah, I'm looking at the art behind you, and I noticed actually on your page you were selling some art, and there was only so many left. What's that all about?
Now you've got me wondering what that was all about.
I'm looking at the item which is behind you on a bit of canvas. Doesn't even know what. Yeah, but
that's just all that is just a cloth that we picked up from somewhere.
Oh right, I thought I saw on your page that you had only 5 left of something or other. It was like a picture.
Well, that was quite recently as well, and I can't remember what it was now.
Oh dear, oh dear. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, yeah, it was a picture.
Yeah,
if I remember rightly, and it was something that I did as a limited edition, something that I created, and it's just down to the final 5 now. It was just as available as a print. That's all.
Oh right. Yeah, I was looking at it and I thought, I wonder what that's all about. You know.
Yeah, I do a little bit of sort of creative artwork as well, and I can't actually get it down to show you, but on the wall here to my left, I have a rather large canvas that I did, and it's the pagan pentacle on there on a purple background, and that's that was my first foray into using my hands to create something, because I previously had been quite rubbish at that. But I actually persevered with it and did something that I like. And then I've done a couple of others in the style of Mondrian's and all that sort of thing. And in that respect, my main love is photography. I do a lot of photography work as well.
Yeah, you've been putting one or two of those pictures on your page, haven't you? Like, you know, Ilfracombe at night time.
Yes. And the first one of those was an accident. It really was an accident. It just happened. I just thought, I like that. Click, and it was a case of, wow, I didn't really expect that when it came out.
What about the no entry sign?
Oh, the no entry sign. That was a local printer who had decided they were having a bit of a joke. And so he put all these, in the dead of night, put these little figures onto the no entry sign and made it like a bar. It was quite funny when I saw it. And I thought, I've got to take a photograph of that.
I'm seeing if I can actually bring that up onto here, because it is very, very good. And it's amazing what you can do.
You get me shot.
Oh, can I do this? This is the question. Maybe not. But just remind everybody, you know, any musicians that might want to come and join and find out more about you. How would they get in touch with you? Hang on a minute.
How can we get in touch with you? Well,
if I move you from the photograph for a couple of moments of myself, okay, and people will be able to see. It looks like this.
Really cool.
That is so funny. I really enjoyed that. But
yeah. Well, basically, it's very simple. If it's radio stuff, they've got music they want to get out into the domain. If it's straightforward, middle of the road stuff, or it's left of centre, right of centre, but not pagan, anything other than pagan, it's Capstone Radio at mail.com. If it's particularly pagan based, it's Cauldron FM at mail.com. And then anything else, Moonshadow Media at mail.com.
Dave, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think we go back so many years, it's absolutely unreal. And I'm sure
that Lantern Studios.
I'm sure our paths will cross many more times, you know, before the end of the day. And I'm not on about just today, I'm on about any day.
Yes, I'm sure they will.
You're a lovely bloke. You've been doing loads and loads, and I really do appreciate that. And if anybody wants to find out more, you've got all the details. We will put it on the page. We're going to say goodbye, but I will talk to you again in a moment, so don't disappear completely. Thank you very much indeed for your company. You've been absolutely wonderful. This has been Devon Live Chat.